Guys, welcome to my YouTube channel and friendship. Today I will be talking about Napoleon Bonaparte, and some of you may be wondering why am I using Zoom? And I'm just trying out with the filters, and on Zoom you can record, so I thought it'll just be a little fun to do it like this since I always use my webcam and it's kind of getting a bit boring doing that. So today's just gonna be like a free talk about Napoleon and what he did and about the Napoleonic Wars as well. Of course. So let's just get on with it. And I don't think I'll need to be doing any editing today, but I may have a bit of mistakes. So I will correct them in my bloopers video. No, not my bloopers video. I mean, my next video. Okay? Promise. Okay. Let's just get on with this video. Okay, so Napoleon Bonaparte was a famous French military leader. So he was born on August 15th, 1769 in Corsica. So Corsica was like this tiny little island that used to belong to another country, but then France invaded it. So Napoleon was born just in the right time to be French. So he was French. So he was like a minor noble. He didn't like have a lot of influence. And usually for military leaders, they would have like very impressive backgrounds, like Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great. They had like very influential families, but Napoleon Bonaparte didn't really have like such an amazing background, and that's why that's what makes him great, I guess. Okay, so yep, as I said, he was born on August 15th, 1769 in Corsica. So he was French. So because he was like a minor nobility, his parents had enough money to send him to mainland France, like the actual France. I don't know what to call it, or maybe just say Paris. Okay, so they sent him to like France, or I'm not sure exactly where he went. So they sent him to get like a proper education, a military education, and he was bullied a lot in school because he was from Corsica and because of his Corsican accent. And many, actually not some people, most everyone thinks that Napoleon's short, but to be honest, he is actually average height, but he is short for an average general because generals are expected to be like very tall, I guess. But he was average height, so can't blame him. So he got a military education and he was appointed as a second lieutenant. He was also famous for he rose to fame when the French Revolution started. I have a video about that and I'll put it in the link in the description. I don't know why I'm saying that suddenly, but yeah. So the French Revolution started, and then after that, the other European countries got angry at France because revolutionary ideas got spread to their countries. And of course, they don't want that because most European countries at the time were absolute monarchies, and who would want to get opposed? Imagine for a second you were a monarchy and suddenly another monarch got overthrown, and now your people has revolutionary ideas, so they might overthrow you as well, and you might have the same fate as them, and nobody wants that, right? So yes, that's exactly what Europe was angry about. So they were really angry at France, and that started the War of the First Coalition. So Austria, Britain, and we'll call them the Allies. They are actually called the Allies. I'm not calling them that. That's their actual names. So they invaded the north of France, and France was getting like defeat after defeat. So it seems like France was going to be crushed, and they could do nothing about it. But then after that, out of nowhere, that's where we got our thing. This person called Napoleon Bonaparte showed up, and he was like the one like sorting out like the minor rebellion. like the sorry, not the minor rebellion, like the minor wars. But because of his military skills, he got promoted to general, and he even got an army of his own. Amazing, right? Amazing, amazing, and amazing. He was only 27 at the time. Okay, so yeah, that's how his career started basically. So when he went back to France, like after the war, he got really, really popular. And then after that, this random group of people, they wanted to have a coup and replace Napoleon with the unpopular government in France. So basically, a short story, after the French Revolution, as you know, King Louis and actually just the monarchy was deposed. So it was kind of like very unstable. So then the Jacobins or the radicals took over, and that caused chaos because you know about the whole chopping heads off thingy. Uh-huh. Yes, that caused a lot of issues. So France needed stability, and and France was already like on the brink of something else was going to happen. It was wars. So yeah, it was the perfect time for Napoleon to rise up and yeah, claim power. So he basically trapped the government, and he deposed them, and it was kind of like a coup, and he succeeded because he had the support of the people. But then they sent him on a mission to Egypt. And this is where one of my very favorite memes come up. When you send someone somewhere to destroy them, you're surprised when they actually succeed. So that's exactly what happened to Napoleon. They sent him to Egypt, expect him to never come back, but he did, and he was kind of successful. Actually, he wasn't really successful, but propaganda and portraits, like really fancy portraits. And you know how they didn't have like photographs at that time, so uh yeah, Napoleon could be anything he wants. He could even be a unicorn. So yep, they depicted him as this brave person who discovered many things in Egypt, and he did discover some things, and he brought the knowledge back to France. So after that, he got power, and there was like three people in charge, but then he made some amendments to the law to make him the first consul. And after that, he became the first consul for life. And then after that, he got some like power hungry ideas. So he started the second coalition. And then after that, Napoleon won because he used the element of surprise, and he was very fast, especially with his horses. So then Europe was like very angry, of course, because yeah, Napoleon was spreading revolutionary ideas everywhere. And you know, if you are a monarchy, who would like it if your people overthrew you? Nobody likes it, right? So that's exactly what Europe thought. So they declared war on Napoleon again, and that created many problems. And it kind of ended when Napoleon was about like 43. So he was entering Russia, and he took over Moscow. So usually when you take over a capital, it is the signal that you won. But unfortunately, Russia is quite big. It has like 16 million square kilometers of land. And another famous thing about it is it's very cold, like behind me. You can see there's so much snow, and the lake is frozen, and it was very cold in Russia. So he marched his 600,000 men into nowhere, and so the Russian the Russian army was giving up, but then they realized something. Winter was coming, and that means it's a big uh-oh for anyone entering here. And the big lesson is never ever invade Russia if it's winter, unless you're Genghis Khan. Because yeah, unless you're Genghis Khan, then of course you can. But yeah, it didn't end well for Napoleon or Hitler or anyone but Hitler. That happened like, I don't know, a few decades later. So yep, just a lesson is don't invade Russia, or else it could end horribly for you. And that's that's how his downfall of his career went. So sorry, I forgot, I skipped something. Before that, he was made first consul for life, and of course he wanted more power. So he was kind of power hungry. So they made him emperor of France, which kind of made the whole French Revolution useless. But then after that, as I told you, the downfall of his career started. So they marched into Russia. Winter started. No food because he was surviving off the land, and of course, what grows in minus, like, I don't know, minus 30 degrees in Russia? What can grow? Nothing, right? Nothing. So they couldn't do anything. Their supply was cut, and men were starving, and the horses were starving, and they froze to death. And after that, yep, so they had no choice, and they had to go back out because it was too cold. And yeah, they just marched out, and after they exited Russia, they ended up with less than 100,000 men. So as I told you, Napoleon went to Russia with 600,000 men, and he marched out with less than 100,000, and that is a big, big problem. So yeah, when he came back, his reputation was tarnished. It was absolutely tarnished. And one big, really big problem for Napoleon was Britain. So amongst all this coalitions, he mostly won because he's a very great general, and he uses tactics of splitting his enemies up into two and then flanking them by behind. So that's his strategy. But as you grow older, it's kind of less strategic and more like just run at the enemy and hope and see what happens. So of course, you can guess how that worked out. It didn't work out so good. So he was very unpopular in France, but now the European countries were like seeing like an advantage to get revenge. So they it's not like they're declaring war on France. It was more like declaring war on Napoleon for causing all this big trouble for them, because yeah, he was a great pain for all the European countries, and he's already spread revolutionary ideas to many European countries. And but let's stop looking at the bad side of Napoleon, and let's kind of look at what he actually did in France and not like other countries. So as you might know, Napoleon was basically a dictator, so he was in charge of the whole France. Yeah, he was in charge of France, basically. So he started making like reforms, and he made like a bank to help with the financial crisis, and he gave everyone more equality, and he made like a law book called the Napoleonic Code. That was helpful. That was helpful because every at that time, like, all the laws were jumbled up, and as you might know, the French Revolution caused a lot of chaos in France. So he kind of like brought stability to France, and that's what made him like popular in France. But now his downfall was coming, and so like the final battle that ended his career was, as you might know, like one of the most famous battles of his career, the Battle of Waterloo. And so that didn't end well for Napoleon. So it was the British against Napoleon, and the Prussians joined as well, and he lost. Not surprising, he had to retreat, and then he went back to France. And people were sick and tired of war, so they kind of just wanted an end to all of this. So all the European monarchs came and said, okay, we're sick and tired of Napoleon. Let's just kick him out and put him in some random island. So he was exiled to the island of Elba, in St. Helena. And then St. Helena, he was exiled to two islands. So but it wasn't like too bad for him, even though the European monarchs were kind of angry. And he still got to keep his title as Emperor of Elba. And that was so funny. But of course, he got angry, so he decided to go back to France on boat. And And just note, he wasn't like punished. He still got to live in a fancy palace. He still got a lot of money. He still got important people to visit him. So it wasn't all bad. But Napoleon didn't just want to like live the rest of his life like that. So he decided to go back to France with the help of some of his I don't know, generals. I don't know what they're called, but yep, with some of his friends, I guess. I'll just call them friends for now. I'm not sure. I need to look up the proper term. So they want to bring him back to France, and he started this coup again. And because if you're just wondering what happened after Napoleon was deposed as the Emperor of France, okay? So after that the European monarchs brought back France's old monarchy. So that means Louis the 16th's uncle. And it was kind of like the whole revolution didn't happen at all. And the people were sick and tired of war, so they just kind of accepted it. But of course, it's not the end of the story. We still have more to go. So the monarchy Louis the 17th. I'll just call him Louis the 17th. I think that's his name. Louis the 18th. I'm not sure which Louis it is. There's so many Louis. They are not creative with names at all. Okay, anyways, they promised to bring back peace in France and to help with all this economical downturn. But then they started partying again and they started oppressing the poor again. And yes, again, it was like the revolution didn't even happen. So the people realized, why did they even overthrow their monarch in the first place? And they realized why they did that. So they were kind of happy when Napoleon came back and he promised he will bring glory back to France. And that didn't end well as well. He lost again. So the European monarchs, they wanted like put him in like an even more remote island, but yeah, he was kind of like left alone. So he at the end he kind of just like he left a great legacy, but it didn't end like so well for him. He when he died, he was like placed in 7 layers of coffins. I'm not sure if it's 7, but there was a lot of layers, maybe 5 or 4. I can't remember exactly. Okay, but he was put into many layers of coffins, to make sure like like he won't come back again, and he won't cause like so much chaos in Europe. But in the end, he did bring stability to France. He made France a very powerful nation, and because of his wars, it kind of spread like revolutionary ideas, and that brought rise to like more popularity in like democracy, constitutional monarchies, republics, and that's why yeah, that's how Europe is today. I don't think there's like very few countries with like an absolute monarchy like last time, and that's like thanks to Napoleon because he brought these revolutionary ideas everywhere. But of course, he did have some bad sides, but let's ignore them for now because all of it is good so far. He did leave a very strong legacy, and uh he like wrote like a law book, the Napoleonic Code, and he brought a lot of like military strategies, I guess, because he was like most famous for his military career, and I guess he is remembered for that. And he's a very great military leader, possibly the greatest in the world in history. But there's still hope for other people as well. Um, yeah. Okay, that's it. That's it about Napoleon. Oh yeah, and one more thing. He was definitely average height. That is true. I mentioned that like many times. He's average height, but not the greatest height in history. He's not the tallest person. I guess he's like, I don't know, 5'5". Wait, how tall is he? Oh yeah, he is 1.68 meters. That means he was about 5'5". Yeah. I'm 5. I'm sorry, I'm 4'9". So no, not that short. I expected him to be like short as me. But anyways. Oh yeah, and more fun facts about Napoleon coming up soon. Is including why does Napoleon always have his hands in his pockets like this? Like look at all his portraits. If you don't trust me, look at all his portraits. Some of his portraits might have him like holding like a horse, but most of his portraits is him like like putting his hand inside of his pocket, and I'm not sure why he does that. But okay, that's more on that next time. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please like it. And if you want more videos like this, please consider subscribing to Friendship and You Live. Yep. And if you like math videos, please consider checking out my other YouTube channel, Math Wiz. I forgot to put the link to that, and you'll probably never find it because it's so secluded and it's not spelled how you think. So let me just put something for Flag Friday, France, which is where he's from. Okay, thank you again. You can leave now. Video's over. Yep. Okay. Bye. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye. Bye bye. Bye. Am I putting my finger? It's not working. Okay.